Yeah. Bismillah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. All right. Okay, welcome everyone. I have Sundus here. She will start the program, inshallah, by introducing Brother Muhammad Abbasi, our guest speaker for today. So without further ado, go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Islamic Day 2023, hosted by Islamic Center of Union County. We are delighted to have you here with us today, and we hope you enjoy the insightful lectures we have planned. As parents, you have a great responsibility of raising your children on the fundamentals of Islam. Nowadays, this mission is becoming more difficult. Living in a non-Muslim country, as well as the exposure of children to social media, has made it a challenging task. Our mission today is to help our community and provide you with the knowledge and skills needed to build a strong and healthy family. Allow me to introduce our first speaker for the day, Mr. Muhammad Abbasi. Mr. Muhammad Abbasi is a retired businessman who founded Keller Williams Realty Tri-State Region in 2020. The New York Tri-State Region currently boasts 43 offices and 10,000 associates. Muhammad spent the last 10 years of his 30-year business career training franchise owners, team leaders, and sales associates in business and personal development. He is an engineer with a master's degree in nonprofit management and has taught various public administration courses at Rutgers University. He is now a doctoral candidate in public administration nonprofit with research interests in civic and political engagement of American Muslim young adults. After retiring in 2010, Mr. Muhammad turned his attention to helping nonprofit organizations such as Islamic Relief, Life for Relief and Development, and United Muslim Relief. Muhammad loves to consult nonprofits and train young aspiring leaders. Additionally, he loves spending time with his children and 11 grandchildren. 12? MashaAllah. Please welcome Mr. Muhammad Abbasi to present his lecture, Living Life on Purpose.
Thank you so much for coming on a day like this. Most people would like to spend it out in the sun enjoying the nice weather, but this is important too. And the value that you're going to get out of this training today really depends. Do I need this? I'd rather not. The value you get out of a workshop like this one, or anything for that matter, even when you go to Khutbat al-Jum'ah or you watch a YouTube or whatever, the value that you get out of it depends on how ready you are to receive the message. More than 25 years ago, one of my mentors said, when the student is ready, the teacher shows up. You hear what I just said? Now, when the teacher is ready, the teacher is always ready. But when the student is ready, If you have something on your mind that's buzzing in your head that you're looking for an answer, you'll catch it. You'll catch it. You'll be out there looking, and you'll either get it from YouTube, you'll get it from a lecture, you'll get it from somebody. So at the end of the day, if you have questions on your mind, if you have issues that you need answers to, this lecture may answer it. And if it does, if it answers one of your questions, then inshallah, today is a good accomplishment. Question is, how much time do we have? It's 2:30 now. Question and answer. So we have 1 hour. This workshop, I usually, when I designed it about 25 years ago, and it went through revisions, I've delivered it mostly to young people, and usually in camps like Mass and ICNA around the country. And I usually need about 2 days to deliver it. So I'm gonna try to cram 2 days worth of material in 1 hour. وما لا يدرك كله لا يترك جله. And what we can't accomplish, if we can't accomplish everything, at least we're not going to ignore everything. So the picture that you see here is really a summary. I'm going to give a handout. This is a summary of the entire workshop. And what it is, you want to hand them out, the handout, or have our sister give it to them? Yeah. I made you a flyer with this, just so that you understand the entire summary of the presentation. So basically, what this is an analytical framework for the subject of life. I know that's a huge statement to make, but in reality, if you had a car and you had a problem with it, you would go to a mechanic who has some kind of a schematic, like an electronic diagram, that basically they hook up the car to it, and before you know it, they know exactly where the problem is. In organization, my PhD is in nonprofit management. Believe it or not, we teach a course to the master's level at Rutgers, master level students, that I was able to summarize in a single page. If you wanted, I can send it to you. And the page is like this. It's called an analytical framework, which basically shows all the moving parts of the organization, the inputs and outputs and everything, and how each part requires attention, but it also helps you identify where your problem is. So that's what an analytical framework is. One of my students was an older lady who had just lost her husband, and she was wallowing in her misery, an American lady. She was wallowing in her misery for months and months, and she was actually in a commercial by hospice services in New York, and on and on. She attended this workshop, and at the end, I had a lot of notes on the flip chart. I actually reproduced it on the flip chart. She came to me, she said, "Can I have this?" I said, "Yeah." I tore it up. She said, "Can you autograph it?" So I scribbled my name on it. About 2 years later, as she pulled it out of her purse, she said, "Wallahi," she said, "every time I have a problem in my head, a bug in my head, I pull it out, I look at it, and I figure out exactly where my problem is." So how does this work? This is supposed to be an analytical framework for life as we live it. And it answers the question of, how can I live life on purpose? Now, why is there a question like, how do I live life on purpose? Because the Quran says, أَفَحَسِبْتُمْ أَنَّمَا خَلَقْنَاكُمْ عَبَثًا وَأَنَّكُمْ إِلَيْنَا لَا تُرْجَعُونَ. The Quran taunts people who think that their creation is for no purpose. So we as Muslims know that we are here for a purpose, that we live life on purpose. And believe me, wallahi, I'm almost 70 years old. I may not look it, alhamdulillah, but I'm 69 next week. And let me tell you something. In 12 grandkids, 4 kids, alhamdulillah, the whole thing. Here's what I'm finding out after all these years. And after interacting with so many people, I built a huge company, and I used to interact with people at leadership level and at the lower level. What I found, most miserable people are miserable because they can't figure out what's their purpose in life and living. And it drives some people to the point where they open the car door at speeding at like 60, 70 miles per hour, and they want to just jump out and die. I'm talking about Muslims, by the way. Okay? I don't want to give more details, but people go to extremes because they can't figure out what their purpose is. So hopefully this will help. And the question, figuring out how to live life on purpose is not a conversation. It's things you do. So even though this is a conversation we're having, but this has practical implications. You can take this sheet and you can actually sit down and analyze your life based on what you see here. All right, so let's get started because we don't have time. The very first thing that one needs, now I need to bring the computer here because I can't reach the computer. If I have to because of the computer, then I'll do it, but all right, let me do that. So basically, the first thing that we need to identify is our set of values. And this is a problem because a lot of people really have no idea what the word values means. Now, in Arabic, we have an equal term that people use a lot, and the word is qiyam. Allah Azza wa Jalla described the Quran, the deen, our deen, with the term dinan qiyaman. In other words, our deen is a collection of qiyam. It's a collection of values. So the word value means qima. But we also need a more practical definition for it. And the definition that I like is a simple definition which answers the question, what's important to you? Wallahi, I would ask people this question and say to them, what's important to you? What are your values? And they have no clue. People confuse the word value with beliefs. You say, what are your values? They start telling you their beliefs. You ask them about their beliefs, they start telling you their values. These are simple terms that are used to define how we live, and yet most people have no clue. Alaikum salam. So when I'm saying to you that the starting point is figuring out what your values are, what I'm saying to you is what's important to you. Now, to answer this question, if I right now gave each one of you a piece of paper and I said, write down your top 5 values and we'll go from there, you will really have a hard time doing that. In the 2-day course, we do it differently. I give people 50 or 100 pieces of paper. I cut up like an 8.5 by 11, or I ask them to cut it up. And here's how it's done. You can do it at home. We don't have time to do it here. But take 50 pieces of paper, or stick-ons, or one of those. Both عربي مع إنجليزي؟ طيب خير. ما في مشكلة. We'll speak Arabizi. Arabizi. So the way to figure out what your values are is to simply grab 50 pieces of paper or 100 pieces of paper and just start writing down everything that comes to your mind that you think is important. And you're going to start with big things in the beginning, like, oh, mardatillah, pleasure of Allah. And then you're going to put down my kids, my health, my money, financials, blah, blah, blah. And you just keep writing. Of course, the younger people, najah, success, graduation, get married, have kids, all of these things. Somebody will put down $500,000. Somebody, I need to buy a house. I need to pay my debt. The idea is to just keep writing without differentiation, without prioritization, without anything. At some point, you would stop. And I would say to you in the workshop, I would say to you, separate them into top half and lower half. Is that difficult? When you have 50, to separate them into 25 and 25, it shouldn't be that difficult. So you'd separate them into 25 and 25. Then I'd say, take the top 25 and separate them again into top like half and bottom half. And then do it one more time, now you got your 5. So you see, to pick 5 out of 50 in this manner is much easier than to just give you a piece of paper and say, write your top 5 values. You'll see in a moment why I'm starting with values, because that's how the Quran started. That's how Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam started. النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم لما بدأ الدعوة زي طاولة بأربع رجلين. It's like a table with four legs or a stool with four legs. One of them was عقيدة, which is the beliefs. The other one was morals, الأخلاق. إنما بعثت لأتمم مكارم الأخلاق. But the one that people misunderstand that was major is the issue of values. You see, the Quran says, إِنَّا أَنزَلْنَاهُ فِي لَيْلَةِ الْقَدْرِ. What's al-Qadr? Al-Qadr is value. It's the night in which Allah Azza wa Jal sent us a new set of values. All of a sudden now, إِنَّا أَكْرَمَكُمْ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ أَتْقَاكُمْ. No more. فَغُضُّ طَرْفَ إِنَّكَ مِنْ تَمِيمٍ فَلَا كَعْبًا بَلَغْتَ وَلَا كِلَابًا. Those who understand Arabic, in poetry, Amr ibn Kulthum, he was like he had the most foul mouth. And he used to taunt people like no other. So he told somebody once, he said to him, lower your gaze, you're from Tamim. You are neither from Ka'b is the name of a tribe, or from Kilab. In other words, you're worthless. This is how they used to talk. This is how they used to talk. That was the value system. The value system was if you are from this tribe, or if you had this much money, or if whatever, there was so many reasons for somebody to be higher up than somebody else. The Quran comes and says, none of that. Now Bilal radiallahu anh is worth more than, or just about anybody else among the Sahaba, even though he was a slave. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, he's on a tree doing something, and the Sahaba looked at his legs. His legs were too tiny. He was a very tiny guy, and they started laughing. Oh, look at how small he is. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said his feet on the day of judgment are heavier than the mountain of Uhud, to teach us the value of things. رجلاه عند الله يوم القيامة أثقل من جبل أحد. When you understand what Laylatul Qadr, a lot of people call it the night of power. What's night of power? What does that mean really? I would love somebody to explain to me, what does it mean, night of power? But when you understand that it's about a new value system that comes down to change history, to change the world, to change how people relate with one another, then you'll understand the value of Laylatul Qadr. So Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam relied in the early period of da'wah, in the first 13 years, on introducing not just al-aqa'id, La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah, Jannah and Nar, all of these things, believing in the Akhirah. Not only that, that's the part that we all love to talk about, but we also need to understand that there was a new value system. You can no longer consider yourself better than somebody else because of the color of your skin, or because of your tribe, because of your wealth, because of ancestry, or any of that stuff. So when we talk about values, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about what's important to you that is really important. Where do we get our values from? Where? If you ask your son or your daughter, you said, what's important to you? What do you think is influencing that decision? It's a simple question. Society, parents, siblings, friends, school, teachers, religion. See, this is why we want to vote for teachers. We want to vote for people to be on the board of education so that the curriculums that are taught to our kids, you see where I'm leading with this? From our faith, a person's faith, social forces, TV, Facebook, Instagram. I lost count. Yeah, I mean, now it's probably number one, للأسف. So the most important thing in life is figuring out what is the most important thing in life. It's really all there is to it. And most people, they never give it a thought. Wallahi, once I shared the thought with somebody that it shocked the audience when I said to them, this is based on statistics, that most people spend more time planning a vacation than they do planning their life. أغلب الناس بيقضوا وقت أكثر في ترتيب رحلة لفلسطين، لمصر، لبشاور، للاهور، لله بعلم وين، لزطع وين، They spend more time doing that than they do planning their life. First time I heard this, I gathered my wife and kids. They were all small, they were at home. We rented a cabin in Pennsylvania in the mountains. We went there, I think, for 3 or 4 days. And for those 3-4 days, all we did was talk about our family mission, our family vision, how do we see ourselves years from now, and on and on. My kids to this day remember that. One of them has the notes from that meeting, and that took place more than 25 years ago, when they were kids, when they were at home. Anyway, so we talked about the values. Then there is beliefs. So what's the difference between values and beliefs? Values, like I said, إِنَّ أَكْرَمَكُمْ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ أَتْقَاكُمْ. That we're talking about a value here. What's important? What about فَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَهُ وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ شَرًّا يَرَهُ? Anyone who does an atom's worth of good deed will find it, and atom's worth of bad deed will find it. And is that a value here? Are we talking value here or what? No, that's a belief. When we say, I believe in Allah, and that's a belief. That's, Sheikh Sha'rawi calls it aqidah. That's even more than a belief. That's aqidah. That's like a knot that's tied and it cannot be untied. Anyway, so beliefs are the rules we live by. Sheikh Sha'rawi says that, rahimahullah, says that everything that wants to penetrate your heart has to clash with your beliefs. In other words, before you like something, we have what an American scholar back in 1965 calls it a perceptual screen. In other words, there's like a prism, a screen. في شاشة هيك بتصفي الأمور. And every one of us has it. And that screen either allows things to go through or it doesn't. So like if I have that perceptual screen as a Muslim and somebody tries to put into my head the idea that it's okay, boys and boys, girls and girls, who cares, you know, rainbow, colors, the whole alphabet, LGBTQ, XYZ, I don't know what else, they keep adding letters. My perceptual screen is going to say, absolutely not, this is not going to go through. It's like Hajj's. It's hard to explain it in Arabic, but in English, it's a screen. No, بالعربي بسموها بالإنجليزي بسموها prism. It's a shield. It's a shield. It's a screen. It's like the screen that you have on your door that doesn't allow mosquitoes and things to go through. Anything smaller, like air, can get in, but mosquitoes cannot get in, stuff like that. So that's what a perceptual screen. Perception means how you see things. So it's a screen that allows you to allow things in or not. That screen is constructed there based on your beliefs. Your beliefs are that screen. They're related together. Anyway, al-aqidah, according to Sheikh Sha'rawi rahimahullah, these are beliefs that have gone through that screen that are acceptable and that your mind is comfortable with them. And it reached the point where they are tied like a knot that cannot be untied. That's why it's called aqidah from the word uqda. Our creed is like a knot tied. If it keeps going back to your brain for questioning, it's not a aqidah. Then it's something you're thinking about, but hasn't reached that level. And you might be comfortable with it, but it's not. So al-aqaid, they are very few and far in between, and they are important. And by the way, having too many values is having no values. Let me explain to you what that means. My kids, I love to give examples of my oldest daughter, she was a hoarder. I hope she's not watching. I'm sorry, Baba. She was a hoarder. عارفين شو يعني hoarder بالعربي؟ العربي اللي ما برميش حاجة. كل شيء عنده له value. كل شيء مهم. هذه مهمة. ما بصير نرميها، يمكن نعرف نستعملها نحط فيها زيت بعدين. We can put oil in it. Okay, هذه خليها بنحط فيها كيروسين. هاي بنحط فيها مش عارف شو. You go into their house and there are things from 30, 40 years ago that these people have no idea what they are, but they're there because they think they're important. So to them, everything is important. After my daughter got married, my wife and I spent a month cleaning her room after she left. Wallahi, more than a month. Because she hoarded everything from when she was a kindergarten. Her room, you couldn't walk in her room. I have another son whose house is empty. He has a huge house, probably 7,000 square feet. I walk in, I have to look for a chair to sit at. He's a minimalist. They call themselves minimalists. I have a son like that. He throws away things that are perfectly working and valuable and people would love to have, and he will throw them away because to him, they are just a distraction. Well, of course, the right answer is somewhere in between. But there are, like I said, there are people that to them, everything has value. And there are people to them, they have no idea what the word value means. So we're not going to talk about those. Then comes the issue of priorities. This is a quick summary. I'm going to go into a little bit more detail. Priorities. Priorities are the values that we just talked about, but they are prioritized. I trained team leaders for years and years. These are people that each one of them is in charge of anywhere from 100 to 250 people. And my job was to train them. And I used to say to them, the number one mark of leadership is the ability to prioritize. If you cannot prioritize, if everything to you is worth the same as everything else, you'll never get anything accomplished. There's a Chinese proverb, في مثل صيني بيقول اللي بيلحق أرنبين ما بصيد ولا واحد. If you chase two rabbits, you'll catch none. So you have to have prioritization. And this comes right out of the Quran. In a moment, I'll share with you an ayah. We'll get to it, inshallah. But prioritization is the mark of leadership. And priorities change. Priorities change based on circumstances, based on time, based on a lot of things. Aging, needs, circumstances, contingencies. But doesn't mean that you can't have them. And if you take two brothers, a brother and sister from the same household, one of them has exams. To that person, the most important thing today and tomorrow and day after tomorrow is studying. That becomes top value. The other one has just finished and passed, and mashallah, he's doing good. So the other one is probably going to go play. So two people in the same household have different values and different priorities. Maybe the same values, but different priorities depending on the time. SubhanAllah, it's like the old saying when they ask somebody, أي أولادك أحب إليك, which one of your kids you love the most? And the response was, الصغير حتى يكبر, the young one until he grows, and the one who's traveling until he comes back, and the one who's sick until he heals, and so on. Values are like that. If you are sick, la samahullah, there's somebody among us here who's dealing with a health issue, the most important thing to them is to get better. If somebody is broke and can't pay the rent, the most important thing to them is to go out there, get some gainful employment, get some money so that they can pay the rent. So the priorities have a lot to do with circumstances. They are related to circumstances. But putting that aside, we still need to have priorities. Behavior exposes our priorities. What does that mean? If you see somebody, if you get together with somebody for a cup of coffee, you meet somebody here in the masjid, and all they talk about, this is especially the youth, all they want to talk about is like, have you seen the latest Xbox game? Oh my God, man, you should see the graphics on that. The speed, man, you know, my computer was smoking. Okay, so then they go away and then they come back and it's Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi. Man, I can't wait to get home to play with you see, everything they say, they talk about. A sister who's all about fashion and makeup. That means that fashion and makeup are top value. She doesn't have to talk. Yani, you look at people and you can tell their values from what they look like. Not to judge them, not to judge them. They are speaking without speaking. So the issue of values, يعني بيفضح. Really, قصة الvalues هاي فاضحة. والله المستعان. So I want to show you how serious this issue is. This is one page, from my 200-page dissertation, which I'm about to defend maybe next week or the week after. 1 page. Okay? And what you see, you can't see it from there, but I'll tell you what it is. This one basically is about the issue of civics versus politics. I was able to divide the things that we do as Muslims in this country, or non-Muslims for that matter, young and old. All the voluntary work that we do can be divided into 2 major groups. One group is called civic action, which is the people that are in shelters that need help, visiting hospitals, all the voluntary things that our kids do in school and that we do for ourselves and our community. So the target of civic action is community, the community. It's trying to make the community better. And Muslims are really good at that, right? Then there's political action. Political action is making sure that people who are on the Board of Education are people that believe like us and that represent our values, and that they're not going to teach our kids something that we will regret later on, and on and on and on. That's political action. See, a lot of people think political action, number one, that it has to do with electing a new president, and that's actually not even 1% of political action. There's a lot more to that. There are some people, alhamdulillah, very few of them nowadays. In the beginning, it was a lot, but nowadays, very few, who believe that politics is haram. And don't get me started on that. Yesterday, I gave a khutbah on the subject. The ones who watched the khutbah told me it looked like I was fighting with somebody, because this subject makes my blood boil. I'll share with just one story. In California, if you go to ICPC, website, just the 4 letters, ICPC, you'll see the khutbah. You can listen to it and you'll hear what I'm saying. But I'll give you just one example from the khutbah. In California, true story, there's a community that is majority Muslims, just like in Michigan and other places. And there was election time. And they have a sheikh, probably just came from overseas. And he said, siyasa haram, politics is haram, don't get involved, don't vote, we don't want to assimilate, we don't want any of that stuff. They listened to him. Guess who won all the seats on the Board of Education? Yep, the Rainbow. Now the Rainbow are teaching their kids whatever they want. Tell me how correct that decision was. That is just, it just drives you crazy. On one hand, we want our kids to grow to be good Muslims and everything. On the other hand, we want to do the least that we can do, which is to make sure that the people picking the curriculum that they're going to be reading in there's not boys and boys. I mean, I don't want to go into too much detail here. You understand what I'm saying? So here, I was able to cross the civic acts with the political acts. I did a survey around the country, original survey, that was answered by 935 people, which is huge. Considering surveys, if you have more than 375, that means you're representing more than 1 million. So the survey, I got 935. I analyzed the survey, and this is just 1 page of the survey. And what you see on it is, based on questions that I asked, what civic activities do you do? This and that and that. And you get to pick, I do this, I do that, and I do that. What political activities do you do? I do this, that, and that, and that. And then you compile them and you cross them and you do gymnastics with them and analysis, very sophisticated analysis. So there is one column that says, here's all the civics that we do. The group on the left, it names the group. In the column, it shows how much civic action do we do and how much political. And then I divided the civics over the political. In other words, to see the ratio. بدي أشوف النسبة ما بين شغلنا العمل المدني الاجتماعي, our civic work compared to our political work. Okay? So look at what I found. In the US population, the first line, it shows that the ratio of civics to politics is the same. It's almost the same. One is 20 points, the other one is 16. It's almost the same. When it comes to us Muslims, the ratio could be as high as, look at the top, 8.28 to 1. With the ones that do most civic activity, being the most religious. In other words, the most religious they got, the more religious they get, they drift away from doing what we need most in this community. What's the significance of all of this? This is basically says that كل ما تدينوا كل ما بقل خيرهم. The more religious they become, the least. And by the way, the most active ones, if you look all the way at the bottom, are the ones that are not religious. The ones that are not Sunnis, by the way. The criteria, it's just mind-blowing. I can share this with you in detail later on. The bottom line is this. Our values determine what we do in life. Not just with our kids, how we relate with one another, but also how we live our life outside. If somebody put in my head a bug that says politics is haram, nobody says that nowadays. But the opposite is true. There are people that are pushing civics. We're doing nothing but civics. To the point, let me give you an example. The Dallas Morning News after September 11 was bashing Muslims. Okay, it's a major paper. So somebody confronted them and said, aren't you the same paper that was praising Muslims after the Oklahoma City bombing in '93, who sent more than 200 volunteers from Dallas to Oklahoma City to help those people? You know what their response was? مش انتوا اللي مدحتونا وقلتوا عنا ما احسننا وناس طيبين. You know what their response was? You are a bunch of useful idiots. And for months, the Muslim community in Dallas, not only did they boycott the paper, but they also picketed the paper, they did their work, and they forced the paper to apologize. My question is, do we want to be useful idiots? If we are out there just doing stuff for the sake of doing, and yet the things we need to do, we're not doing, it's because our values are mixed up. القيم تبعتنا ملخبطة. And part of it is cultural, part of it is, it's just misunderstanding. And a lot of people, when they hear me talk like that, they want an ayah. Immediately, like, give me an ayah. At least a hadith. Okay. So the other day I was thinking about this because I think about this 24/7. I spent the last 13 years doing what you're seeing here. Wallahi, I was sitting there thinking, and out of the entire Quran comes this one ayah to mind. Ayah 19, Surah 9, Surah At-Tawbah. And it's actually ayah 19, Hizb 19, right next to it. عليها 19. SubhanAllah, the significance of letter 19, it's mind-boggling. So the ayah is what you see there. أجعلتم سقاية الحاج وعمارة المسجد الحرام كمن آمن بالله واليوم الآخر وجاهد في سبيل الله لا يستوون. لا يستوون. The Quran taunts those people who think that by simply providing water to the pilgrims, سقاية الحجاج ما هو يعني كانت شرف هذا عظيم بالنسبة لهم. It was an honor to take care of the pilgrims and feed them and so on. So there were people that wanted to do that. Among us nowadays, we all want to do that. But the Quran says, أجعلتم سقاية الحاج وعمارة المسجد الحرام كمن آمن بالله واليوم الآخر وجاهد في سبيل الله. Strives hard. We're not talking about jihad, the safe one. We're talking about striving for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jalla. And what's better striving than to do the right thing? ندخل في معترك الحياة. One of the great scholars of the Hanbali fiqh from Baghdad years ago, he said something that I found fascinating. I actually built an entire khutbah around this concept. He said, do not look at the crowds at the doors of the masajid. لا تنظروا إلى الزحام على أبواب المساجد ولا إلى زحامهم يوم الحج الأكبر. And do not look at them how they are crowding عند المشهد in the Hajj, 3 million every year. He said, انظروا إلى مواطأتهم أهل السوء. In other words, look at how they fight the tyrants. That's how you know that the ummah, إنه الناس بخير, that the ummah is in good shape. He said, do not judge the ummah at a certain time, in a certain place, based on how many people gather in the masjid and how many people go to Hajj and all of that. You judge the ummah by how much do they stand up to tyranny and how much they stand up to ظلم. ما ينظر الواحد عليكم السلام. كيف نحكم اهلا حياك الله اخي حياك الله. ما ننظر للكثره، لازم ننظر بالضبط وين الجهد. We have to look at exactly what is it meant for and is it value based or is it just what's convenient. على كل حال, I just wanted to share that with you. There are several other. How much time do we have? We still have time. So going back to the first slide, why do we want to have values? Because if we don't know our values, then there is no value. In other words, you have to make a decision. And values have a way of creeping up or down. They push each other out. They crowd each other out. If you do not make a decision, you say, this is important to me, something else will come and push it away and will take its place. I'll give you an example. You decide to exercise. And you make a decision, you say, exercise is important, I'm going to start tomorrow morning. But you don't call it a value. Something else shows up. You have to go to renew your license or something like that. All of a sudden, you drop the exercise, you go to renew the license. You say renewing the license just pushed away the other one. This is how life is. And I used to train managers, and I used to say to them the following. How I know that you know what you're doing is when I know that you have such a short list of priorities and values that you don't have to write it on a piece of paper. Number one. And rule number two, until number one is accomplished, number two is a distraction. Let me repeat what I said. If you have a list of 3 things or 4 things that in your mind that you want to do today, right? And you set out to do number 1, it's 8 o'clock in the morning, you're getting ready, all of a sudden you remember number 2. And I come and I see you doing number 2 on the list. And I'm going to ask you and say, is number 1 done? This is an important concept. Are you done with number 1? And, well, not really, because I had number 2 nagging me. Okay, so number 2 is the new number 1. No. Well, wait a minute, but that's what you're doing. You just replace number 1 with a new number 1. So until number 1 is accomplished, number 2 is a distraction. End of the story. Try this technique. Every day when you wake up, ask yourself one question. Just one question. If I only have time and effort and energy and resources to do one thing today that would make my day an amazing day, what would that be? One thing. You decide what that is and put it down. Then you ask yourself the following question. If I have a little bit more time to do one other thing today, what would that be? Put it down. Repeat that 2-3 times based on how much time you have and how much energy. And start working on number 1, but don't look at number 2 until you're done with number 1. Because the moment you touch number 2, you have just made it number 1. Until number 1 is done, number 2 is a distraction. So the reason we want to know our values is because we also want to build beliefs around them. Our beliefs protect our values, and we want to prioritize them. Why do we want to prioritize? Because when you prioritize, you get to focus. Focus simply means that you are keeping your priorities. And there's a problem with focus. You know what's the problem? Focus feels rude. Sister Mahmoud's going to call Sister Ali and say, لك تفضلي اشربي قهوة عندي. Come hang out, let's have some cup of coffee. Now Ali has 1, 2, 3. And she hasn't even finished number 1. So she says, yeah, but I'm sorry, but I got to finish. As soon as she hangs up, sister who just called her, oh, she's so rude. She's not rude, she's just focused. But focus feels rude. The moment you put your hands out and you say, I got something to do, and wallahi, let me tell you something. Alhamdulillah, in business and in life, I've done a lot. But I wouldn't have accomplished a fraction of what I've done in my life if I didn't learn very early on to say no. Ask Sister Nada. Probably 4 or 5 years ago, she asked me to get together to discuss something, Egyptian revolution or God knows what. And at that time, I had more important things to do. You know what I said? She probably doesn't remember. Nope, I don't have time. This time, things are different. I'm more free. I'm done with my dissertation. I'm about to submit it. I'm feeling more free. Last month and the month before and the month before, for 3 months, I canceled all my khutbahs. I usually give 4 or 5 khutbahs a month in 4 or 5 different masajid. I came here and you've seen me here before. I called all the masajid heads and I said to them, canceling all my khutbahs for the next 17 weeks because I have something that I got to get done. It was to finish this work, the dissertation. You see, unless you learn to focus and put up with the criticism that you are being rude, it has the appearance of rudeness. The moment you say no to people, people will judge you. They will think that, oh, شايف حاله. ما عم بعطيني 5 دقايق. Every day I get emails, oh, brother, can I have a cup of tea with you? My answer is no. I don't have time for a cup of tea with you. If I have time for a cup of tea, I'll have it with my wife and my 4 kids and my grandkids. And I'll sit down and read a juzr from the Quran, which I'm falling behind. There's a million things I have to do more important than having a cup of coffee with you. However, I'll be happy to give you 15 minutes on Zoom. Are you up for that? Yeah, okay, let's do it. I have an opening next week, Thursday after 8:30. I just did that right before. A head of a big organization wants to talk to me about, I don't know what. Fine, al rasi wa aini, I'm doing it. But on my turn, not yours. Why? Because I'm focused. Not because I'm shaykh hali or none of that stuff. It's just I'm focused. I have more important things to do. So the question to you, does every time somebody try to tax your time and try to rob you of minutes, hours, days, Allah knows how much, do you have the ability to say no? Nicely. I'm not saying say, nope, I don't have time. Not like that. We say, oh, I'd love to. أخوان الشام شاطرين بهالشغلة. ليك والله تقبر عيني والله يا ريت والله لو يطلع بيدي بس ماني فاضي. ماشي, whatever language you use, be nice. بس just do it. So focus في rude, and until number 1 is done, number 2 is distraction. تفضل. Huh? No. It's none of their business. You don't have to justify anything. You know what I say to people? I'm busy. They don't have to know. Busy with what? None of your business. I don't have to answer. I really don't have to answer. If I have to answer it, I would say, do you want like the top 10 on my list or the whole list? Come on. Who among us does not have so many things to do every single day? Especially if you're a mother. You're juggling a job and you're juggling kids and husband and, sisters know best. We guys go to work and we come from work and we're done most of the time. Most of us, most of the time. I know about myself. My wife raised my kids. I woke up one day and they were all grown up and out of the house. How she did it all these years, Allah ya'inha. I mean, because I was doing something and she was doing something, division of labor, it's called. Anyway, so focus is also the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. I'll share with you a hadith in a moment, but you have to learn how to say no. Here's the hadith. سمعت نبيكم صلى الله عليه وسلم صلوا على رسول الله رغم أنف عبد ذكر اسمي عنده فلم يصلي علي صلوا على رسول الله. سمعت نبيكم صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول من جعل الهموم هما واحدا كفاه الله هموم الدنيا والآخرة ومن تشعبت به همومه لا يبالي الله في أي واد هلك. يا أخوة, focus. Focus is the sunnah of the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم. من جعل الهم هما واحدا. في نص ثاني بيقول هم المعاد. أنا I don't think إنه بس هم المعاد هم الحياة. It's concerns about this dunya and the آخرة. وابتغي فيما آتاك الله الدار الآخرة ولا تنس نصيبك من الدنيا. Let's be fair. يعني Allah Azza wa Jal doesn't want us to be شل الدراويش, sitting in a cave waiting to die, because some people, misinterpret Islam this way. But no. Anyway, so that's the hadith. Now we're going to go into another critical concept that's not very clearly understood by people, and it has to do with thinking. In the Quran, العقل has three names. العقل, النهى, والحجر. العقل يعقلون. النهى, إن في ذلك لآيات لأولي النهى. والحجر. All of them have the same meaning. الأولى العقد يربط. النهى من نهى ينهى, to deny. الحجر, isolate, quarantine. These are the names of the mind, and they tell you the function of the mind. The mind is nothing but a controller of your temptations. Sheikh Sha'rawi says the following, بالعربي بترجم. كل عمل ابن آدم منبعه القلب. All of our deeds emanate from emotion. All of our deeds emanate from emotion. And the mind comes in and tells you whether it's like green light, red light. The more you have, nowadays they call it emotional intelligence. There's a whole new science built on this concept, which is the ability of the brain to control the temptations of the heart. قدرة العقل على ضبط نزوات ونزعات النفس. This is a very important concept in Islam, and you glean it from the meanings of the word mind. Mind in English is one word, mind. In Arabic, look at how many different words and how they all relate at the end of the day to the one meaning, which is the mind is a controller. It does not know a real good idea emanates from the mind. Most ideas, most actions emanate from the heart. I'll give you a simple example that you can relate to. Husband comes home and has a red sport car that he just bought for $60,000. The wife looks at it and says, wow, why did you buy it? Now he's got to come up with a reason. Oh, good gas mileage and this and that. He starts coming up with technical answers. In reality, he fell in love with it. He bought it. He made the decision emotionally and is trying to justify it logically. You understand what happened here? Salespeople, I trained salespeople for years, thousands of them. Salespeople, their job is to make you love what they're trying to sell you. They don't try to convince you logically that it is the right thing to do. They're just trying to make you like it. When they see you falling in love with a car or a house or whatever, they back off. They're done. There's nothing to do. You're already bought. As they talk, they are talking you out of it. They're actually giving you reasons to say no. So they realize once you fall in love, they're done. You'll justify it later on your own. You don't have to do that. So thinking, because again, we're going back to the initial picture. We need to focus, and when we focus, we think. But our thoughts produce feelings, and our feelings produce thoughts. What does that mean? Many times, look, I don't mean to belittle, I don't mean to reduce the importance of clinical psychology. But a very large number of people who are depressed, again, I'm not talking about clinically depressed due to chemical imbalance or real issues. I'm talking about the majority. Many people who are depressed, the reason for their depression is they harbor negative thoughts. All they think about, their mind is constantly buzzing with what could go wrong. They're constantly telling themselves, if I go out now and drive, I'm going to have an accident. If I have an accident, I'm going to die. My kids are going to go to the poorhouse. There's always these crazy ideas going on in their head. And then they wonder why they're losing it, and why they're not happy. If I told you right now, if we had time, I would say close your eyes, think about a loved one who passed away. And just zone everything out. And all you have to do is think about my father who just passed away this January, or my mother who passed away at age 59, and on and on. All I have to do is just close my mind, close my eyes, and think about them. Automatically, within seconds, I'll be depressed. So feelings, whether it's euphoria or depression, or whatever feelings you have in your heart, are usually, most of the times, they start from a thought. The reverse could happen. If a lion walks in right now, we don't have lions roaming the streets, but if a lion walked in, Asad يعني, لو دخل أسد هلا, I'm not going to look at it and say, oh, that's a cat. Oh my God, that's a big cat. Could that be a lion? Oh my God, lions eat people. I should be scared. It's not a thought. You look at it and you get scared. So feelings could proceed. You hear loud noise. You look at little kids. They hear loud noise and immediately they flinch. So there is an interplay between thoughts and feelings. Let me conclude with this. All of this in the blue is so that hopefully you'll do what's in the red, that you'll take action. The reason you want to start this chain of thinking about your values and prioritizing them and focusing and giving it some thought and getting some education and on, all you want to do is that hopefully you'll do something. That you'll wake up one day and actually do something. So how do I use this analytical framework? Somebody came to me and says, Ya akhi, I'm not getting any results. So I would look at the word results and I would say, what action have you not taken? You do it backward. Well, I can't get anything done. What thoughts in your head are preventing you from doing what you need done? What limiting beliefs that are telling you that whatever you do is not going to make a difference? Oh, I don't vote. Why? It doesn't make a difference. No, it does. And we have the evidence. I can show you in so many cases where even 10 people can make a difference. Wallahi, most boards of education in the largest cities, in New Jersey, in Bergen County, most boards of education are won by less than 70 votes. Any of our small masajid, not a Friday, even on a Maghrib, on a Friday, Maghrib or Isha, you have more than 70 people. Why aren't we doing it? Because of limiting beliefs. So why aren't we getting results? Because we're not taking action. Now, let me show you what happens. At the end, here's what happens. This is supposed to be animated. على كل حال. What happens is, as soon as you take action, you get results. When you get results, you come back and you do more. And you do more until it becomes a habit. At that point, the results you're getting start making you feel good about yourself. Let's say that you're exercising, you get on the scale and all of a sudden, oh my God, I dropped 2 pounds. And all I did was, blank, fill the blank, right? So that gives you a boost that, oh my God, it works. So you'll do more. So results have the ability to change your feelings. But they also have the ability to change your thoughts, how you think about things. And they have the ability to change your focus because you start focusing on the right thing that just gave you results. They have the ability to get you to prioritize things better. They have the ability. Nothing can change your life more than getting some results out of something that you've done, that you have tangible results and outcomes in your hand. Nothing. So if you're having a problem putting your life together, get off your chair and start taking action. ما في شيء بيغير مجريات حياتنا، أولوياتنا، ترتيبها، التركيز تبعنا، الفوكس تبعنا، تفكيرنا في الأمور، شعورنا تجاه الأمور، ما في شيء بغيرها أكثر من الحصول على نتيجة لعمل من أعمالنا اللي بنقوم فيها. فلذلك أنا حريص على لما بشتغل مع ناس in counseling يعني أخ عزيز مثلا بتصل فيه والله عندي مشكلة كده وكده. All I tried to do is get them to move. يعني I have one relative in another state that was in severe depression related to one of المهم. I managed to go visit him with my wife. My wife is related to his wife. Bottom line, I don't want to give up too much information. All I did for 3 or 4 days was to get him out of his room, his dark room, where he has been حابس حاله. كان حابس حاله literally. Got him out of the room every day for at least 2-3 hours. Not once ساعة الصبح, ساعة الظهر, ساعة العصر. Just walking. And he started feeling better. His endorphins and I don't know, all the different hormones in the body, the happiness hormones, physicians in the room know, they all kicked in, and he started feeling better and better and better. Again, not to diminish the value of clinical psychology and medications and so on, because these are real issues. But sometimes to simply get results from doing what you're doing is enough to change all of what you see in the blue. Sounds like a lot of work, but just go out there and do something. Let me end with one single ayah. Well, the whole surah. ألم نشرح لك صدرك ووضعنا عنك وزرك الذي أنقض ظهرك ورفعنا لك ذكرك فإن مع العسر يسرا إن مع العسر يسرا. Here it comes. فإذا فرغت فانصب وإلى ربك. What does that mean? The last two ayahs. What does it mean وإذا فرغت فانصب? Surah Al-Sharh. It means when you have nothing to do, get busy. النصب التعب. النصب التعب. إذا فرغت الفراغ مفسدة. الفراغ is not having anything to do. Is like, I'm bored, mommy. Bored? Get busy. Go clean the room. Wash the dishes. Get your butt here. Go fix your... Get them busy. Get them doing things. إذا فرغت فانصب. اتعب. Get a part-time job. Do something. وإلى ربك فارغب. الرجوع إلى الله عز وجل يسبق العمل والتعب. نسأل الله عز وجل أن يجعلنا ممن يستمعون القول فيتبعون أحسنه. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم فيها فوزا مستغفرين. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Any questions?
any advice